All right, today we have Mr. Sean McConnell with us. He has run into a training plateau. So, what we're going to cover today is I came up with 9 or 10 different manner, what's the word I'm looking for? 9 or 10 different ideas that we can potentially implement to get him back on that gains train. And again, these will apply not just to Sean, but to anybody that's really running into a plateau. And that's very common with training, especially if you've been training for any amount of time, you're going to hit plateaus. And there's nothing more frustrating than hitting the plateau with your training because you're still putting the same amount of work, but you're not seeing either more muscle mass adding, you're not seeing more strength adding. So it gets frustrating. And a lot of times people end up quitting because of that. So we don't ever want to do that. We don't quit here. That's not what we do. We figure out a way. And that's exactly what Sean and I are going to do right now. So, Sean, thanks for joining, man. I appreciate you coming on. Let's get into this. So let me start by asking you a couple questions here. I'm going to make some notes, so I am looking down, but I'm writing. But
Yeah.
let's start with who you are, where you're from, what you're doing.
Yeah. Obviously, name's Sean. Born and raised Arizona native, one of the few, one of the proud, one of the thinnest bloods out there. I get cold pretty easy. Don't get hot very easy. Yeah. Let's see. I got 4 kids. They're awesome. And
Married?
yeah. Married for going on 12 years. Yeah. Don't
Nice,
pop quiz.
man.
I'm not doing math in my head right now.
Yeah, there you go.
Uh,
I won't hold you to it. You've been married over 10 years, right? That's a
yeah,
big
over
thing
the
there.
10. That was a big one.
Definitely. Definitely.
Love God and just trying to make my kids in the world a better place.
That's right, man. That's what it's all about. And you guys know, and Sean, Sean and I are connected through Taekwondo. All of our kids go to the same Taekwondo school, and Sean and I met there. So we do know each other outside of the Facebook group and outside of social media.
Yeah,
So he was gracious enough to come on and give me somebody to talk to instead of me just talking to you guys because I know that gets boring. I'm not the prettiest face, and you know, is what it is,
I
right?
assure you,
So.
he's a real guy. Patrick's a real person. Yeah,
Yeah,
really
I'm
cool
not
person.
just some social media guy. That's just what we do, right? All right,
Yeah.
so getting into it, your training, what are you training for? What is the goal of your training? Are you trying to add strength? Are you trying to add mass? What's you know what I'm saying? What are we going after here?
Yeah. I would say for sure I want to be the best version of myself possible. I think strength is probably where I'm going. Uh, as you know, Patrick, my youngest, Zeke, has cerebral palsy. He's very high functioning. He moves around a lot, but in the same vein, if he's asleep in my bed and I got to move him to his bed, I've thrown my back out just by doing that more than once, right? So like I'm trying to get strong enough to be able to do that, to take care of him. He's not going to get smaller. He's just going to get bigger.
Right, right.
So being able to carry him around or help him in times of need is really, I think, my main focus. I want to be, I've ran half marathons, I've trained, I've done sports, I've been physical before, but I want to be in a sustainable place where one, I look and feel great, and two, I can perform in a way that suits my family. So
Beautiful goal, man. Beautiful goal. Real life strength,
yeah,
right? That's what we're
exactly.
going after. The Not just the bodybuilding stuff, right? Which I'm a little more fond of just because I like the way it makes me feel.
Right.
But ultimately, right, we want to be training for real life. It's great to look good and it's great to, bench press 300 pounds or whatever. But
Yeah.
ultimately, we have to have movements and exercises that translate to real life stuff. So I totally get you there.
Like dumbbell curls because I'm bringing in all the groceries on 2 hands, right?
Yep.
That's the mission.
Exactly. Yeah. Farmer walks too. I mean, I got my kids doing farmer walks where you're
Yeah.
walking, carrying heavier dumbbells for them, obviously, right? And I tell them all the time, look, this is what we do the transporter for. That's what we call that workout. It's real life, real
Yeah.
life shit. So, okay, cool. So, how long have you been training, working out with weights?
I'd probably say I started back up in May when I looked at the scale and didn't like what I saw.
Okay.
I got one of those smart scales that'll tell you, your visceral fat, and that was higher than I'd like. And then the metabolic age was 4 years older than I currently am, so that wasn't a good number to see.
Sure.
And I just see, the daily IPAs were not doing me any favors.
Yeah, they'll have a tendency to do that.
They creep up on you real quick.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. All right. So since May, so we're what, five, almost 6-ish months? Cool.
Yep.
About 6 months. And what kind of training are you doing right now?
So I just did, this is like my third week. I changed it up. I bought this app on the App Store. It's just called Dumbbells, right? And you can, when you pay like $10 or whatever, you can customize them and change it up. So I was originally doing 5 days a week. It would be Monday, Thursday, chest back, Tuesday, Friday, legs, shoulders, and Wednesday would be all arms.
Okay.
Changed it up for the past 3 weeks of doing 4 days instead and stacking my arms, either bicep or tricep on the end of those Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday days.
Okay.
Wednesday just kind of being more of a free floating day. Maybe I'm going on walks with the family or what have you.
Okay.
Uh, so yeah.
All right. And is it mainly kind of bodybuilding style movements? Is there more functional stuff in there using,
Yeah,
you
so
mentioned dumbbells.
it's all dumbbells, so it is pretty functional. I also throw in push-ups and pull-ups in there.
Okay.
So you've got like your incline, decline, regular bench press, squeeze press. You've got your rows, flies, and then curls on those days. And then for the other days, it'd be push-ups, dips, deadlifts, lunges, squats, and then a lot of presses and raises for shoulders, and like triceps at the end of that. What I was trying to do with the last 3 weeks is to, instead of, usually I would stagger them. I would go like chest back, chest back, chest back. Now I'm doing chest, 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 back, 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 back to try and get muscle fatigue in there to really
Sure.
push to failure. And so, yeah.
Okay. And what plateau are you running into?
The biggest one I'm running into is certain exercises like, let's say, squats or chest presses. I'm maxed out at the dumbbell that I
Okay.
have. So it's hard to get to failure when I'm already doing like 12 and I'm still like, I could keep going. Like, should I just keep going until I drop one on my face or what should I do? Is kind of my struggle that I've been having.
Okay. Yeah. So you've outgrown your weights.
Yeah. It's a good problem to
That's a
have.
good
But what
problem.
do I do
Exactly.
until I can afford the bigger ones? Because they're not cheap, you know?
Yeah, man. I bought those 75s a while ago and it was like $150.
Yeah,
And
which is not a good. It's not bad, but it
it's
is a
not,
bit.
but it's still $150, you know? So
Yeah,
it's like, that's especially with kids and all your other obligations. It's like, okay, how can I make what I have work, right? So that's what we'll
yeah.
figure out here. So you've outgrown weights.
There's
Oh,
definitely other exercises where I'm not maxed out at those dumbbells, and I still have room to grow there. But
sure.
yeah,
Sure.
I think
So
big
like
muscle
chest
groups.
and back and legs, you're definitely gonna outgrow those pretty quick.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously those are going to be our strongest muscle groups, right? Back and legs, especially, but the chest, especially with your consistency at it, you're going to add that strength quickly and you're going to outgrow those.
right.
So a couple quick tips that I can think of right away. Well, first, let me ask you what rep ranges and how many sets are you doing on average, right? It doesn't need to be specific, but are you doing 8 to
Yeah.
10, 12 to 15 and 3 or 4 sets? What does that look like?
So I was shooting for three tens. Previously, before those 3 weeks, I was doing 12, 10, 10, 8.
Okay.
So 4 reps and then or 4 sets. So now with the larger muscle groups, I'm getting into the 12, 15s.
Okay.
Look for three.
Okay.
Yeah.
3 sets. All right. And 12 to 15. So one simple tip right off the top of my head, add another set, right? That's going to be the easiest, right? So typically when we're looking for strength and hypertrophy, right, adding muscle mass, progressive overloads where we got to focus, right? Either
Yeah.
adding more reps or more weight, which you can't do. So more reps, more weight, or more sets are going to be the easiest way to increase muscle fatigue, right? So I think you're good in your rep range. Strength, typically, you're going to be lower. So if you're focusing on strength, we want to focus on typically like the 6 to 8 rep range is the sweet spot. Once you hit about 8 and 10, then typically what you would do would look to increase the weight, right? So since you can't do that, I would add another set. Or what you could also do is just add a few more reps, maybe go 15 on the ones that like chest press, maybe add a set and do 4 sets of 12 to 15.
Yeah.
That'll burn you out pretty good. Another alternative would be to shorten your rest periods. How long are you waiting in between sets?
About 15 to 30 seconds.
Oh, okay. So those are pretty short already. All right. So that you're good there. I wouldn't go
I'm
any.
trying to use that as more of like a cardio hit
Yep.
aspect.
Yep.
I'm not doing as many burpees as you do because I hate them to death. So
You know, I used to hate them, but I've done so many of them now that they're like my best friend, I
it's fun.
guess. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And Weston, my 7-year-old, just loves burpees. So anytime I'm like, "You want to do some burpees?" He's like, "Yeah, let's go!" And he's out there doing them
awesome.
faster than I do them too. So, all right. So those are two easy, quick tips, right? You want to add more sets. So I would
Mhm.
go if you're doing three, go to four, and then target that 12 to 15 rep range. So let's talk about squats, right? You're doing dumbbell squats. Are you holding two dumbbells or are you doing like a goblet squat?
Two. Yeah,
Okay.
two.
So then, yeah, in that case, then you are going to want to add another set or two in there, see how it feels, right? And that's one big thing that everybody needs to pay attention to is your biofeedback. How are
Mhm.
you feeling through the set? Are you feeling strong? Are you feeling weak? Is it good? How are you breathing after the set? Because we do want to be breathing hard, right? That means we're putting the intensity into it.
Yeah,
And that's the biggest thing about adding strength and muscle mass is the intensity that we're training with. If you're able to sit there and have a conversation after your set, you didn't hit that set hard enough, right? You need to be breathing heavy where it takes you a good 30 seconds or so to
yeah,
not be gasping or sucking air, right? So um, intensity is the deal breaker for adding both strength and mass. Short rest periods is a good thing. You're doing that already. The other obvious, like I said, would be adding an additional set. That will be probably the easiest for you to do. Just add another set in there on every exercise that you do. Depending on how you feel after the 4 sets, let's say you're doing rows. If you're still feeling good and you're not too fatigued, add another one, right?
yeah.
And what you can do is take those to failure, right? So if you want to stay in that 3 set range, take every set to just about failure, right? And if that's 15 to 20, okay, then it's 15 to 20. That's going to be a little more taxing on your central nervous system, may require a little bit longer rest period,
Right.
but ultimately that's going to be more intensity, right? And that's going to spur more growth. So that would be another idea. Let me look at my list here. So I got mechanical tension manipulation. So that's a big fancy word for essentially drop sets. Do you know what drop sets are?
Refresh me.
Okay, so drop set is going to be for you, you'd start with your 40s, right? Because that's the heaviest weight you have. You'll go to failure, drop that, grab the next lightest one that you have. If it's 30, cool, then do that set to failure too. So these would be separate ideas though, right? You can add an additional set would be one idea for you. Another one would be to incorporate drop sets in those 3 sets. So one set would be your 40s to failure, drop set, 30s to failure, drop again, and 20s to failure. If you
Okay.
do 3 sets of those, you're going to smoke whatever muscle group you're doing because you're tapping out what you have at the highest weight. You will be able to do more at a lower weight. So you go and you tap that one out, right? And go down again, right? You could do that run your whole stack of dumbbells, however many you have. You can do that all the way through. And honestly, if you do that 2 or 3 times, you're going to feel it. So that would be another idea as well. Um, if we're talking about chest, right? Same kind of idea applies. Sit there, you press them out, drop them, grab it, press it out. And then what you can do for chest specifically would be to then, after you're done with the weights, get down and do push ups as many as you
Mm,
can. If it's five, if it's 50, whatever it is, do those till your face is stuck on the ground. You can't push up anymore. So
yeah.
stacking those, and you're really going to burn out what you have in that muscle. So that is another good idea. Drop sets are huge. I don't really use them too much because I have enough weight still. But if I'm in a place where, like, if we go traveling somewhere and using a hotel gym, drop sets are really good because they're typically limited on what they have in terms of weights and equipment as well.
Done them for biceps where you'll start low and go up and come back down as
Okay.
like a hit.
Yep.
Sucks,
That,
but it's fun at the same time.
yeah, exactly. Same kind of thing. You can do the drop sets with any movement, and they will, especially with biceps, you, it will hurt in a
Yeah,
good way, right?
yeah,
It's that good burn that you get, the lactic acid buildup because you're working the muscle. Biceps are a very good one to do. You probably only need 2 sets with biceps of drop sets if you hit, 3 or 4 different weights. Those you'll smoke your biceps doing that for sure.
yeah.
Another option, blood flow restriction. I'm not a huge proponent of it. I've done it a couple times. really what that is, so let's talk about biceps since we're on there. Blood flow restriction is where I don't know if you've seen guys, they have like a cuff or a band around their biceps. So you're restricting the blood flow exiting the muscle. And so that's going to build up everything in there, right? The burn, all the stuff that happens when you contract the muscle, the lactic acid, the waste that the muscle expels, and you will feel probably one of the biggest pumps in your lifetime with blood flow restriction because obviously the blood flow is not flowing out is and it's not detrimental. It's not like you're cutting off the blood flow, you're just making it a little bit harder for it to run back up versus so the way it works is typically your veins, no, the arteries are the ones that take the blood to away from the heart. Those are like PVC pipe, if you think
Mhm.
of it that way. Veins are going to be more like your garden hose. So you're not going to crush or you're not going to restrict the flow into the muscle because of the PVC pipes in your arteries, but you're going to why am I struggling with that? You're going to restrict the flow coming out because the arteries are like garden hoses, right? So it's a beneficial way to help put blood into the muscle, which obviously is what we need. It's going to help with all the stuff that I mentioned earlier, specifically like the lactic acid and the waste that the muscle produces. It's going to stay in there. It's going to add to that burn. Plus, it's also going to help you get more blood in there, like I said, and that's exactly what you want, right? That's that pump feeling is the muscle filling with blood. So that would be another option. Um, Strength endurance cycles. That's pretty much what you mentioned. Like your pyramiding on your biceps, that would be like an endurance cycle where you go up, 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 boom, like you mentioned, and then back down. So you would do 10, 12, 15, 12, 10, 8, something like that. If you do it that way, you will definitely feel that. And then what else did I have? So rest pause sets. Those are something new that I've learned about, and I'm starting to become a big fan of those. So a rest pause set is you're going to do X amount of reps to failure. Okay. Then you're going to wait 10 to 15 seconds and then you're going to try and squeeze out another 3 to 5 reps.
Mhm.
You wait another 10 to 15 seconds, try and squeeze out another 3 to 5 reps. You'll do that 3 to 5 times, right? The 10 to 15 second wait, do that again. So you're giving a little bit of a break, right? A little bit of a rest, but not enough to really recover. And so it's again, it's more of that intensity, right? We're increasing the intensity by shortening that wait time or that rest period, and you're still jamming through an additional 3 to 5 extra reps.
That's while holding, like, let's say you're on bench, you're just holding here for 10
Right.
to 15.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So on a bicep, on a curl, right, you can either hold it up high or you can let it hang. But on bench, yeah, you would hold it, get a couple breaths in, try and do a few more, couple
Yep.
breaths in, do a few more. Those are
Absolutely.
good because those really tap everything that you have. You get a little bit of a break, which helps you essentially just squeeze out, a few more reps. So it's again, it's increasing the intensity. But
Okay.
that's a good technique. What else did I? Okay, so strength and power training. So you would do, let's talk about like squats, barbell or not barbell squats, dumbbell squats. So you do 10 to 12 of those, and then, excuse me, then you would do either like box jumps if you have a box or even just broad jumps, right? So you're working the strength and then the power. So do 8 to 10 reps of the dumbbell squats and then do 8 to 10 box jumps or 8 to 10 broad jumps. Then you take your break and then again, right? So you do 3 or 4 rounds of that. That will help. So it's what do they call it? Power and strength contrast training is the technical term for it. But yeah, those are great as well. So you'll see people doing like barbell squats and they'll drop the barbell and then they'll go jump on the box up and over a few times. That's exactly what that is.
Okay.
That's a good one too. Um, Progressive fatigue training, that's not really going to apply. Do. Yeah, so I have a few others that aren't really going to apply to what we're talking about here, but I think for you the best would be the rest pause sets Those are going to be very beneficial to you. The contrast training would be good as well. And then if you're over or if you're into checking out the blood flow restriction, those are good. That's going to be mainly like arms, and some people do it with their legs as well. Back
Yeah,
stuff, that's the blood flow restrictions, kind of
that's hard
impossible.
to do.
Yeah, yeah,
Get your heart in the way, kind of on that one.
yeah, you'd have to be your waist and your throat, and that's not
Yeah, that's not
that's
smart.
not what we want to do. Um, so I think for you, those three options will be the best. So we got blood flow restriction, BFR, we got rest pause sets, and then the contrast.
Sweet.
I think those three would be the most beneficial to you to get you back on the gains train, get you back doing what you were doing before. And then depending on how you structure your training, right? So you were telling me that you're doing essentially a 4 day split and kind of almost like a push pull leg split, right? It's slightly different, but it's very similar. So another option would be to setting up your training where you're doing like a push pull split. So you familiar with that?
Yeah,
Okay. So for the people that aren't, push pull split. So you essentially you're going to do all the muscles that push in one day, right? So that'd be your chest, your front shoulders, the front delts, triceps, and traps a little bit with like overhead stuff. Pull would be everything that pulls your back, biceps. You could do forearms there. And then legs are obviously legs. So I've seen some good success. I was doing a push pull split for the longest time. And the good thing about the push pull split is that you hit the muscle groups twice a week, right? And so the more times that you're able to hit it with a good at least 48 hours in between. So you would do push, pull, legs, and then back in, push, pull, legs, right? So you get that 48-hour break for recovery, which is important. And then you're hitting that muscle group again. I'm a big fan of push, pull splits just because you get that much more usage of that muscle. And typically, the science has shown you can hit a muscle, you'll get the most growth size wise and strength wise by hitting it twice a week versus once a week. If you equate for volume, meaning if you do the same amount of reps and sets 1 day a week versus what you would do combined in the 2 days of the 2 day pulls or the 2 days of pulling, it's typically going to be the same. But the problem with 1 day a week is most people aren't going to do that amount of volume that they would do in the two shorter sessions if you broke it up in a push pull split. Does that make sense?
yep,
Okay, cool. So that would be another thing that you could also look at doing would be to put your programming, so your chest, triceps, delts, all on that kind of 1 day. So Monday, let's say you'd hit it Monday and Thursday. Back biceps and rear delts would be Tuesday. Legs would be Wednesday. So push Monday, Thursday, pull Tuesday, Friday, and then legs Wednesday, Saturday.
yeah,
That's a good setup. You can put it however you want. You can do pull, push, legs, push, pull. It doesn't matter as long as it repeats itself, right? So you get that 48-hour rest period in between.
gotcha.
Do you have any questions or anything for me?
Ah, I had one. I forgot one. While I'm thinking about it, OMADs and beer. What are your thoughts?
OMADs and beer. Beer,
Or any alcohol, I guess I should say.
yeah, yeah, any alcohol. I personally, I choose not to drink. I used to drink a lot to the point where I'd get blacked out multiple times a week in my early 20s. Then I had a kid, and being woken up by my kid at 5 in the morning, hungover, was one of the worst experiences of my life. And from that point forward, I made changes, and I personally haven't had a drink in over 2 years now. And it's not that it was an issue for me before that. That was a few years, but I just choose personally not to drink. If you guys want to have a beer every now and then, I don't see that as an issue. I drink every now and then, just like with anything, right? Moderation is key.
Yeah,
In terms of fat loss and health wise, alcohol is poison.
right.
It kills your brain. It makes it very hard to sleep. It messes with your sleep, and that is one of the most important things for health is at least 6.5 hours of sleep a night. If you get less than that, your chances of cancer like double. There's all kinds of bad stuff that happens when you don't get enough sleep. So alcohol messes with your sleep. So I would caution you there. But again, if it's maybe like a celebratory or once a week kind of thing, maybe 1 or 2 a week, that's not going to hurt you, right? Like the body is going to be able to handle that. It will mess with fat loss. Like I said, it will also mess with your sleep. So you have to account for that. But I'm not completely against drinking. I just, for me personally, it's not something I want to do. But again, it's not gonna it's not gonna kill you. It's not gonna stop your fat loss. It's unnecessary calories. Not that we focus on calories, but if you're trying to lose weight, you don't want to be adding shit that you don't need, right? So, um, just see how it affects you. If with anything, including alcohol or weed or whatever, because everybody has their own little vice. If it gets in the way of you doing the stuff that you're supposed to do, then it's a problem and it needs to be examined, right? We can't be smoking weed, smoking bowls or whatever, and not being a parent or not doing what you need to do to support your wife. Then it's an issue, right? Same thing with beer or alcohol. If it detracts from you showing up for your family, I don't like it, and that's just me. But physiologically, there's some negative effects from it. Gray matter gets eaten up by the alcohol in the brain. We don't want that. But again, if it's not that frequent, if it's not every day after work, you have a couple beers, or it's not every weekend you're going out and partying and waking up kind of hungover, then you're gonna be all right. But if it is any of that, we got to
Yeah.
explore further, right? Like there's a reason most people do that, and
Mhm.
it's not. A lot of times that's an awkward conversation for somebody because a lot of times they're escaping from something, right? And it's a way for them to either numb pain or escape responsibilities. And that's a whole nother conversation we could have. But if it gets into that area, you got to figure out why, right? But if you're not in that area, go ahead, have a beer every now and then. It's not going to kill you. You'll be all right. And then with OMADs, you know how I am with OMADs. Like that is I will never eat another way because of how much I enjoy it. One, right? Like I eat good food tonight. We're having fish tacos last night. We had chili, baked potatoes. You see what we eat, right? We eat good food, and I eat a lot of it. I eat anywhere between 4 and 5 pounds of food when I feast,
Good. It's crazy.
and half of that almost, yeah, 2 to 3 pounds of that is the fruit bowl, right? So I eat a big ass bowl of fruit, and
Yeah.
that helps me not eat too much of the feast, although my plate's clean almost every night. But it's the good quality ingredients. It affects my mindset positively. It makes me show up in the gym every day. But incorporating alcohol, again, you have to evaluate for yourself. Is it something that you're relying upon? Is it a crutch? Or is it celebratory? Like, hey, we kicked ass this week. Let's have a beer. Okay, cool. Go ahead. Right. Like 1 or 2 beers in that situation, you got to live your life too, right? And that's the thing. When I started doing this, I was so disciplined. You could put a lump of coal in my ass, and a diamond would come out, right? Like I was that stringent and disciplined with it. I ended up missing celebrating two of my kids' birthdays. Didn't eat cake, didn't do any of that stuff, and seeing the effect on them of me doing that. They're like, oh, and I don't want to do that to them, right? So that's one of the huge benefits of this approach is that you have that flexibility and freedom to be able to indulge every now and then, and it's not going to hurt you, right? Like it's not ideal, right? Processed sugar, refined sugar, we want to try and avoid that as much as possible. But every Sunday night, I have a big ass bowl of ice cream. Sometimes I'll have a brownie on there. And that is that healthy for me? No, but it's more for the mindset, right? It's a reward, and you feel good. So it's again, we have to have some flexibility. We have to have the ability to be humans. We have kids. We have responsibilities. We're not in control of all that stuff, so we have to be able to be flexible, and that's one of the most beneficial things about this approach is the flexibility. So yeah, I mean, that's why I stand on my soapbox about it and preach like this is the way, and a lot of people are scared of it because it's so drastic from what we've been programmed with, right? We're programmed wake up, eat, have a snack every couple hours, eat lunch, eat dinner, and then something else before you go to bed, right? And that is so detrimental to us mentally and physically that and our approach kind of changing here, but our approach is so vastly different that people are scared. And honestly, you've gone through fast. It's not nearly as bad as we make it out to be in our head. And I think that is a lot of people's inhibitions with it is like, oh my God, I'm starving myself. And there's a big difference between starving and fasting, right? It's the choice. People that are starving aren't choosing that. They're forced in that situation. We are choosing to control what we put in our bodies. And I think that's the highest level of discipline.
Yeah.
And it's the foundation of discipline. If you can't control what you put in your mouth, I know that you're not disciplined in other areas of life. So I
There's
don't know,
definitely
man.
a lot to be said about it too, because you saw me get like within 2 hours of hitting that 24-hour mark line, and I was proud of it. And you're like, go more. And I was like, yeah, I know. And I finally got to a place more so in my life spiritually where I needed it. I needed to fast for that.
Yep.
And hey, man, I've been doing it for almost a month now, so I'm hitting it. But what you see too is one is it's just cheaper. Think about it that way. You
Yep.
are saving money. You're getting better meals. It's something that you get to look forward to. Yeah, as far as the beer thing goes, I'm a once or twice a week kind of guy now, just with how busy I am getting kids to places and things. Like I don't
Sure.
think and drive either. So if I am, I'm at the house and I'm having a beer.
Right.
But and I have noticed it will mess with your sleep a little bit too, especially when you haven't had it in a while. But you did remind me when you said clean plate club. What do you do with it as an OMAD or with leftovers? How do you handle that? Do you have like a Friday night, let's just clean out what we did all week type of night?
Typically, there's not much left over.
You're planning
Alina's
it out,
gotten,
right?
yeah, she's gotten very good at estimating how much I'm going to eat. And I mean, if there are leftovers, a
Yeah,
lot of times the kids will eat because they do. So Declan, my 10-year-old, and Jacob, my 13-year-old, they'll do anywhere from on the longest, not longest, but the most they've done in a week is five. So they'll do 3 to 5 OMADs in a week. So those days that they're not OMADing, they'll have, if we have leftovers, they'll have that for lunch. So we give it to them. They get the scraps.
yeah, right, yeah.
But for me, like most of the time, I don't have leftovers, because she'll make tonight. She'll probably make 6 or 7 tacos, and then we get these pre-made refried beans that are amazing, and it's like 60 seconds in the microwave. Although health-wise, microwave's not the greatest.
Yeah.
Again, got to have some flexibility, right? We can't make everything from scratch. That takes too much time.
We found a quick recipe for refried beans yesterday, by the way.
Did
We
you?
found out, so I can send it over to you.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd
Like
be great.
15 minutes. So it's better than,
Oh
not.
yeah, that's way faster because making good, like authentic refried beans, that takes a while, and
So
I feel bad. Like I can't be like, hey, go make me refried beans from scratch.
yeah, yeah,
Minus everything else that you got to do. I need this. That's just not how I operate. So, but yeah, leftovers. I mean, if we had leftovers, I would potentially eat them the next night. It just depends, really. And again, like I said, I don't really have too many leftovers, so it's not a common occurrence for us. But when there are, if there's enough for me, right, and most of the time, if there are leftovers, it's not going to be enough for a full feast for me. So we feed the kids it, and it's all stuff they like. They eat pretty much the same stuff that I eat, obviously in smaller portions, but we try and have them do very much what we do so that they are learning these habits as early as possible in life because it took me 38, almost 39 years to really get my shit together and figure out what's what and really find my purpose. And that all started with the health and fitness, right? Because when you're working on yourself, you really start to understand and you value yourself more, right? Because you know the work you're putting in, and then it changes your perspective on why you're doing it. It's not just to be, swollen big. It's because it makes
right.
you better, right? It's that mental clarity, that flow, if you want to call it that, really that ability to be clear and ready to go attack and conquer, right? That's what we're supposed to do as a man is go out and build or conquer or attack and hunt and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And I have my personal experience of if I train later in the day, it takes me until I hit the training to show up as good as I can. So it definitely is very important to hit the training. The most important thing with the training though is getting it done, period, right? So if your schedule doesn't allow for early training, then be that as it may, it's important to get it in no matter what. I would say in those situations, most people don't want to get up early enough to hit the training early. So you got to sacrifice a little bit, right? You got to sacrifice somewhere. That's part of serving is sacrificing, right? So when we're trying to serve our family, we got to sacrifice our feelings, our energy, our time, everything for them. And so I'll get up early and I'll do my training. I push it back now because Alina's training with me, which I think is awesome. I love it.
Yeah,
Um, so it's again, we got to have a flexible approach to this, but we also have to prioritize it at the same time because of how it makes us show up.
for sure.
All right, man. Well, do you got anything else? Any other questions? Can be on anything.
I think that's what I got, man. I mean,
Okay,
other than
cool.
the fact that I'm sorry about your I think you're a Chargers fan, aren't you? I'm sorry about that.
I used to be a Chargers fan when they were in San Diego. They left me when we lived there, so I don't watch football anymore, to be
That's
honest.
fair. That's fair, man.
The whole kneeling thing kind of put the icing on the cake for me, and then now that we
Take
know
a big
it's
chunk.
yeah, and now that we know it's rigged and they got playbooks that tell them not the play they're supposed to run, but the outcome of the game already, and all that, like
It's
I'm sure
hard.
it's the same way with most sports, right? Most professional leagues, but I'm a baseball guy. Padres are finally decent again, so I got that going for me. So we're a baseball family here. Well, at least me.
That's the one thing I was joking with my wife about. I was like, if they're all rigged, baseball's got to be the hardest one to rig. I,
Right?
but I
That's
feel also that the pitchers have a lot of control and probably more than they let on. So it's hard to say.
well, and hitting a baseball, I mean, there's nothing harder in sports to do than hitting a baseball. And even if they throw a fat fastball right down the middle, you still got to hit it, and you still got to hit it where there's not seven other players, right? So I agree completely. It's the only way I think you could rig it would be with coaches and umpires, right? And they would have to do shady stuff, bad calls,
Yeah.
changing players, pitchers, that kind of stuff. Where I just have a hard time believing that those players are going to flop like that. You know what I mean? Like there's too much pride, especially with a lot of those pitchers. And not so much like they used to be when you had Nolan Ryan and Randy Johnson and Roger Clemens, those guys that would push you off the plate when you got a little too comfortable. Now they got all this armor on and they dig in and they stand in on the plate and you throw inside, it's the end of the world kind of stuff. As you can tell, I'm come from pitching, so I take offense to that kind of stuff. But it's yeah, I agree, man. To rig baseball would be significantly harder than a lot of other sports. So yeah, that's that could be a whole nother call that we could go on.
Yeah. We'll catch a game when the Padres come in town.
Yeah, yeah, we definitely need to do that. Well, Alina's wanting to go, so we'll have to connect and set that up for sure.
Yeah.
Cool, man. I appreciate your time. If you don't have anything else, I think we can wrap it up here. We've been doing 45 minutes already, so that's pretty good coverage here. But
Awesome.
for you specifically, I think the blood flow restriction, the rest pause sets, and then that strength power contrast training,
All right.
especially for your legs, right? Because 40 pounds for legs is real light, right?
It's not a
And
lot.
I think, do you have a box or something like that at home?
I don't. I do have a little step, but not a box.
Okay. So, and you could do it on that if you wanted to, if it's stable enough, right? Just make sure it's not going to crack on you when you jump on it.
Yeah.
Other than that, you could just do broad jumps or even high jumps, right? Just squat down and jump up as high as you can.
Yeah.
That would get you the same kind of thing. And sprinting, honestly, sprinting, I haven't done it yet, but sprinting is very good for leg strength. And it
Yeah.
also boosts your testosterone. That's always a good thing too. So,
That is what I've heard and seen. I should get back to that.
yeah, I've been looking for a hill to go run some hill sprints. We're in the middle of the desert. There's not a lot of
There's fake hills. We got some fake ones here.
yeah, I gotta track some of those down.
Yeah, man.
All right, cool, man. I appreciate your time. Thanks for joining, dude. And hopefully those help. Let me know if what you see. Try those for a week or two and see if you're feeling it. If not, we can either hop back on or when I see you next, we can go over and
Cool.
some other ideas maybe.
I appreciate that, brother.
Absolutely, my friend. You have a great night. Go enjoy that family, and I will see you soon.
All right, man.
All right, bud. Later.